Ed in San Diego, and today is December 18, and this is a background of San Diego skyline and San Diego Bay, and that's a real picture. It looks like a painting, but it's actually a beautiful scene. And this is I'm on the top of a hill called Point Loma, which sticks out into the Pacific Ocean, and it provides a barrier reef, if you will, between the onslaught of the Pacific Ocean and San Diego Harbor. San Diego Harbor is the home port for many years, since I think 1920s, of the U.S. Navy Pacific Fleet, which has other Pacific headquarter areas, and of course Honolulu and Guam and other places. But San Diego is the administrative head. It's the Pentagon West, as many of you know. I live in downtown, across from the harbor in Seaport Village, and just down the street is Pentagon West, in other words, naval headquarters. Very familiar with military training. I was in during Vietnam, I was in the Army Reserve. I was fortunate to get into a medical unit, and actually very thankful for that opportunity. Medical thoracics unit, operating room. I was an operating technician. I was one on the surgeons on how to work with them, how to prepare a sterile tray. Patient care was a specialty, though, rather than technical. Nurse duties, did some of that, sure, but I was mainly the handholder and the greeter and taking care of people. And it changed my life. I love that experience. Ron Cooper is a customer, member of the Global Press Club, which I'm honored to say that, and is a true hero, American hero, in my view, and in the view of others, is the epitome of Top Gun. The Tom Cruise character was built on the activities of Ron Cooper as an Air Force pilot, jet fighter pilot, officer, squadron leader, trainer, risk taker, and winner. Welcome, Ron Cooper.
Well, thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. And I want to say right up front, thank you for serving our country in uniform. And for those of us who served in the cockpit, anything about aviation, quite honestly, we hoped we would not have to visit you more than 1 hour a year for our annual physical and so forth, because we frequently thought of those in the medical field that, hopefully you're not going to find some reason to keep me out of the cockpit. So we're hoping that
it wouldn't be me, but certainly the boss,
at least somebody. But at any rate, we frequently refer to you in a joking sense that I hope I only have to talk with you 1 hour a year type thing. But Ed, I appreciate.
I was the guy in the white coat.
Okay. And of course, everybody in a white coat, they're all the same, that they're medical. And if I say or do the wrong thing, you could keep me out of the cockpit. And that's just kind of the reputation you had. But Ed, I'm very interested in your and your listeners' thoughts about how we engage in controversial topics. And I want to keep this at kind of a top level, the 40,000-foot level, so to speak. But do we choose to engage in controversial topics? And I'm introducing this topic, or suggesting, how can we? In other words, I am not interested in being divisive. albeit I do have beliefs that are legal, ethical, moral, and so forth, and I'm not going to compromise that. And I don't mind discussing controversial topics, but it's a matter of how we do it. In meaning, if for me, I've used social media as we've used the term here before, faceless, voiceless, and from my perspective, and I don't expect everyone to agree with me, from my perspective, if I choose to engage in a controversial topic through social media, that could be very divisive. That I'm coming down most likely on one side of or another. And while I certainly have very definitive beliefs, and I'm not going to compromise that, what I don't want to do is be divisive with people that I'm hopeful I can serve everyone, even though our maybe ideological beliefs are radically opposite each other. I hope we can find common grounds on which we can move forward together. But Ed, I'm very interested in your listeners' inputs. Do you engage in controversial topics? And as I make that statement, that question, I'm not suggesting we should not engage in controversial topics, but it's a matter of how do we. I mean, do you only go so far in social media, which again I think of as voiceless, um, and so forth. But do we engage that way, or do we say no? I'll tell you what. Let's discuss this in person rather than social media. But any thoughts come to mind, Ed?
Yeah, I am determined to keep this program not political, keep it business to business. However, geopolitics are omnipotent and impacting how companies are doing business. Look at the European Union suing Google and Apple and Meta and whoever is in their sites. uh, and even here in the US, in years past in particular, overregulation has driven costs sky high and risks sky high in developing land, in construction projects under President Trump. And there's some things that I don't like about what he's doing, but there are things that I just absolutely love, and it brings back fond memories of President Reagan. Back in 1980, I voted for Reagan as president twice, and my family background is Democratic, but I'm pro-business all the way, and the beat or end the evil empire, Russia at the time, led to the defense buildup, and that was centered right where I wanted to be, which is LA, Southern California. And that enabled great recruitment and location into California, Southern California in particular, uh, not only in defense, but tech. And tech drove defense and still does, even now, of course. So there's a lot that President Trump is doing in big business. Uh, I think he might get around to, in my opinion, doing that a little bit because he ran on that. But big business, big money comes first. Can't do things for the little guy until you take care of the providers. That's my view. And that is a pro-business view. I know that. And I'm proud of it. So therefore, I think it's okay to have some controversial topics done in a humanely way on this program because the audience is so diverse. And the average reach of a program, uh, if it's well done, is over 1 million. And 70% of that is US, Canada. Um, very quickly, who's our reader, who's our audience, listener, watcher, primarily based on LinkedIn research. Uh, the biggest market is Toronto, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, now North Carolina, that whole corridor in the Northeast, biggest market uh, of audience for what I've been doing for 5.5 years, the global TV talk shows. The number two market is London, Metro London, and that's a surprise. You would think California would be, but California is number three. We have southern and northern, one market, California. Uh, and these are huge numbers for these three areas. It's probably 80%, if not higher, of the total audience that we have. We have audience in Bangladesh. Yesterday, we had a show featuring a young woman, highly educated, professional person in Bucharest, Romania. That's first time. And of course, I was honored to have that opportunity. But most of our audience, number one, the Northeast region. And number two, Metro London is huge. And Metro London audience is probably 10, 15 times larger than the rest of Europe. Asia Pacific, our audience in Hong Kong is pretty big. Singapore is bigger, however. And we have some corporate interests even in Beijing and Shanghai, of course, and Taipei, and not so much anywhere else. India is a new target for me. We have a very high level, but small numbers in India, so I seek to build that up. Latin America is a favorite of mine, particularly Mexico. In 2008, in 2006, I produced a live meeting in Panama City. It was my first Latin American movement, and the accounting firm Price Waterhouse was my host sponsor, along with a large shipper contractor in the Panama Canal. They brought me in, and there was a great meeting that led to Price Waterhouse welcoming me into Brazil. And we did a series of meetings across 5, 6 years in mostly Sao Paulo, but also Rio, and of course, Mexico City. Ernst & Young was our host sponsor several times in Mexico City. And we're very likely going to do it again there in the coming year. All of that means, who are we talking to? In the US, we have a large audience in Chicago area and Texas and Florida, mostly Miami, Fort Lauderdale. But it's nowhere as big as California or in the Northeast. In the largest companies, we have people who pay attention to what we're doing. Just to give you an idea of that. And one last thing here before I stop is, according to LinkedIn, more than half of our typical audience from the distribution of the recorded shows are female. And 90 to 95% of our audience is business oriented as opposed to consumer. It's a little hard for LinkedIn to measure more precise than that. This topic of anti-Semitism and violence in the US has to be topic one today. I'm uncomfortable with that because my background is Jewish, of course. I don't hide it. My name is in bright lights, and everybody knows that screams Judaism. Uh, I've never been to Israel. I wouldn't mind going, but I've never had a hot desire that I must go there. Uh, but I'm certainly watching everything that goes on there. But here we are today in the US, and there are foreign, in my opinion, Ron, uh, that the anti-Semitism is driven by Iran and their influence stooges in the US. I am absolutely positive about that, in my own opinion. A lot of the cyber attacks that have been recorded, not like me, I've been fortunate so far not to have that, but my Joanne has been a victim of constant cyber attacks. And uh, I don't know if that's Iran, but it's certainly China, Russia. I don't think it's government. I think it's units of people who do it on a contract basis. Uh, but I think the violence that's going on right now and the anti-Semitism verve that is noise making and unfortunately rearing a really ugly head right now is driven by foreign influences inside the US. And I support what President Trump is talking about doing, and I hope it's real because that'll make me feel safe.
Sure. And in the context of big business, Ed, yes. And what I'm referring to is having an appeal that where we want to advance people based on whatever our product or service is that we represent through our respective businesses. In in the context of controversial topics, certainly very few people are going to agree on everything we agree on, but in the context of social media and the like, I would rather discuss to whatever degree we may choose any controversial topics in the context of what we're doing right now, real time dialogue. That I know the tone of your voice, I know where you're coming from, and I would certainly hope that through our friendship, mutual friendship, Ed, you would never, after we get through conversing through whatever media, you would not attempt to attack, denigrate me, or so forth. But yet, I would never expect you to reduce your values to necessarily align with mine. I just respect whatever values you have. But see, through the tone of voice, real time communication, such as we have right now, I can ask you if I may have misunderstood something you said based on the statement, tone of voice, anything. I want to ask you. And I don't want that to fester in a faceless, voiceless environment. You and I both know, we have seen it happen, that yes, this conversation degenerates. And so that's what I don't want to get into almost at all cost. That let's talk. I'm the kind of person, as long as we can have a dialogue, we can reach some sort of a middle ground and not attack and denigrate each other. But that's a lot of where I'm coming from.
I have never felt anything from you in that regard, ever. And I learned from you. Now, I'm used to being around very strong guys, and I've learned from all that. So I don't, so I've got a tough skin, but I don't regard anything that you have said to me to be threatening or denigrating whatsoever. Not a word.
No, and I don't think you
But
would,
I
Ed.
can think that some
Yeah.
people who don't have the thick skin or experience that I have had in dealing with various people not like me, they could feel like, whether it's right or wrong, I don't care, but they could feel threatened. But
Well,
I
I
don't,
think
I don't have that feeling at all.
no, in that context, Ed, you and I have worked with each other long enough, and it's been not even at 1 year, but yet you know me well enough to, in some cases, be able to speak for me. It because you know me well enough to know, and in the context of personally denigrating statements and so forth, I think you can speak well for me. You know, I would never do that, never. And
I've
so,
I've learned how to listen critically
okay.
and then feedback or just indicate that I'm hearing and to get uh, corrected if I'm wrong. But that has always been lockstep. We've never had any difficulty at all.
But see, that's real time communication, Ed, from my context. That I heard you make a statement, I heard the tone of voice, and I'm going to ask you right now. I'm talking hypothetically. Did I process correctly, Ed, what you said? Because I want to make certain I did. In a faceless, voiceless, let's say social media context, you know it happens pretty frequently that a statement is made and someone misinterpreted entirely, and that statement festers in a person: resentment, resistance. You and I have talked about the 3 R's of the program I have, and we know that can happen. And if the resentment and resistance continue to escalate, it could result in some sort of some form of retribution. And I want to do everything I can. I want to be an inspiration to keep things at a positive level. That's what I call the uh, top level leadership. I want to do everything I can to keep things at a positive level. And I'm going to do everything I can without demanding, but I want to do everything I can to keep this conversation at a top level to where it does not, in my term, degenerate into an emotional arguing type of context to where we end the conversation, completely on opposite sides. Maybe you wondering, well, I hope this person is not going to target me because of various statements. That I can't do that with people. It's just not in my value system. But I want to keep things at the top level, top class if I can. And I want to try to inspire people to do just that. And we stay away from hating each other, even though we may vehemently disagree on any given topic. We just can't take that to the matter of hate. And Ed, I just see too many things degenerating to the level of hate and people seeking retribution. That's my perception of some things
Out
sometimes.
there, yeah, in we think it's politics, but it goes deeper. So let
Yes.
me ask you a question, and then we make a statement quickly here before the audience forgets what we've just been saying. You mentioned the 3 R's. Why don't you
Yes.
just enunciate for the audience what the 3 R's mean to you?
No, Ed, and thank you for that opportunity. That through my life experience, the 3 R's, which can escalate, it begins by resisting, and that is I'm I'm going to resist you because of something you did, you said, and that resistance can become resentment. I resent what you said. Actually, it begins with resentment. Then through that, it can escalate to resistance. I'm going to resist you in some form or fashion. Maybe I'll maybe look at you, but I won't talk with you. And if it festers even further and escalates, it could result in retribution of some sort. We hope if that retribution occurs, it wouldn't be any more than just something verbal. But we know of instances where it was just a couple of days ago in Australia at gunpoint. these kind of things happen. Ed, I want to do everything I can to help people be aware of this potential escalation, these three R's. And if we are aware of it, never accuse anyone, but at least can we keep this at the high road? That's a lot of where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Speaking about high roads, let's go back to your days as a fighter pilot, and and the analogy in my head is anyway, you're at not 40,000 feet, but 50,000 feet. And tell me, what's the difference? Let's just say you're at the high level. You just mentioned keep things at a top level. So that sprung into my head right now I because of your background as a jet fighter pilot and trainer uh, in wartime, not in peacetime. So could you describe for the audience and to make uh, the vision thing, the feelings, the safety precautionary level at say 40, 50,000 or higher?
Yeah, I just very briefly, Ed, at the let's just say use the term 50,000 feet. In aviation terms, we call that flight level 500. But at that altitude, we can, I think people couldn't envision, we have a very panoramic view. I can look from fully left to right. We call that left 3 o'clock. I mean, 9 o'clock, left 9 o'clock, all the way over to right 3 o'clock. In my vision encompasses, I don't know how many thousands of square miles because I'm at that altitude. But the other thing is, in the context of combat, there aren't a whole lot of weapons that can reach me at that point. So I am relatively safe at that altitude. But if I were to release a bomb at that point, if it's not laser guided or otherwise uh, precision guided, I'm going to have to compensate for the wind and so forth and so on. But if I'm at 100 feet, I'm closer to the target, but I am also within the enemy aircraft. I'm within range of the adversary who can shoot me down. So just a very broad perspective of the difference. 100 feet, I'm within range of being shot down, and 50,000 feet, the various panoramic view and so forth. But it's all about critical thinking. I have literally maybe just a quarter of a second or so to react at different points being a pilot and a flight lead.
Please address, if you will, the element of stealth in today's terms. Back in Vietnam, I imagine that wasn't available.
It was available to varying degrees, but let's just say that 50 years ago, Vietnam technology was what it was. We had ECM, electronic countermeasures, where we could target different systems electronically. We did not have the stealth, that is the material of which aircraft are made today, to have less radar reflectivity. We were seen on radars with the materials that aircraft were made at the time. And so we do now have access to rare earth materials from which aircraft are made, and they are less reflective of radar and so forth, which makes us less visible, so to speak, uh, using electronic technology. So those are the kind of things that we use. We call it stealth, that we use that to advantage. We use night to an advantage. So night and the stealth technology to be able to get into and out of a region of an area of responsibility, we call it AOR, the target area, so we can get in and out with the hope that we are going to be imminently survivable, but it's all planning of where the intelligence tells us the adversary is located, what type, and we plan our tactics around that. But that's a lot of the planning, Ed, that goes into what you were referring to as stealth technology, but it's also stealth tactics we use, such that we have the highest probability of achieving the mission, the tactical design, the intent of the mission, but then also return home with all of the resources that we went into the target area with, aircraft and people.
So let's talk about anti-Semitism and your take on that.
I will tell you, Ed, it's very disturbing to me that anti-Semitism. It's religious in its origin, but I will tell you from a Christian viewpoint, and I mean I'm talking Christian. Perhaps for your listeners will know in two contexts. One is I am not Jewish; I am Christian, but by saying I am Christian, I believe in Jesus Christ, who was a Jew. And he, as we're celebrating in the United States, the coming of Christmas, we're 1 week away from the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and he was born a Jew. But all throughout the Old Testament, we read about the Jews being targeted, and I believe that has its origin in God leading the Jews. Some people refer to the Jews as the chosen people out of Egypt from bondage into the promised land, which had already been occupied. But God said, I want you to take over this land, and I am commanding you to destroy all of the people in that promised land. And that might be, Ed, and I certainly do not want to suppose, I know with certainty, the origin of various religions, Muhammad and so forth, what their thoughts are about Jews. But it seems to me that is maybe the origin of the hatred for some people's hatred for Jews, which has emanated into the various religions and the hatred for. But as I was mentioning earlier, I cannot identify with the level of hatred that some people seem to have. In even, if they would hear of a person's last name, would they form the mindset of you're a target? And I think I cannot in any way identify with that, Ed, but it appears some people do. And so, Ed, I'm not the right person, the best person to give you a real definitive answer. I can only talk from my perspective. I would like to learn more about what it is so that I can be aware of the hatred that some people have. And I'm going to do everything I can to be a catalyst to inspire people to acknowledge any differences we have, but not get it to the point of hatred and retribution.
Thank you for that. Let me ask you a question, and you can change the topic if you wish, anytime. Question I have is interpretation of the acts, the ACTS, the acts, actions that from the Bible that Jesus did, performed, and attitudes into legend and storytelling, yeah, for thousands of years, that forms the basis for what a lot of people in the media call Judeo-Christian values. Mm-hmm. And sort of that's what we're talking about, isn't it? I mean, that's a positive point of view.
No, it is, Ed. And our country, the United States, is founded on Judeo-Christian values. And that is that we believe in God. Now, I would have to add to that the God of the Bible, capital G. There are people who believe in a God, which is not necessarily the God of the Bible. And only God knows for sure, but I'm a very just very briefly, Ed. I believe that God created the heavens and the earth. He created each one of us We are not a result of the explosion and things just happen. There are too many things, proof, and there are too many intricacies to think that we just evolved from an explosion, some evolution, and stuff like that. But God created us for a very specific purpose. I am aware that some people believe that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary, and it was a human birth. Therefore, Jesus, as we believe, cannot be the Messiah. He was just a good person. The Messiah is yet to be born by some people's beliefs, and I acknowledge some people believe that. I personally believe, and Marty, my wife, and I together believe in the God of the Bible that He created, and it was prophesied in the Old Testament that the Messiah would be born, and He came to us through Mary, a virgin, and conceived through the Holy Spirit. And so it was a miraculous birth, how it occurred. And Jesus was not a royalty. He chose not to come into the world that way, but he came to us in the form of in the manger, as we believe it. And he at first appeared to what some people believe is the lowly shepherds, as opposed to coming in on a royal coach type thing. There's much more that can go into that, but that's just very much a top level of the Judeo-Christian values that together, Judeo, Jewish, Christian, let's call it non-Jew, together. We work together in business, and we work together in the values that we support, and so it is working together. But that forms the basis of what I believe are Judeo-Christian values.
What about the Ten Commandments? I mean, isn't
And
that a part of this folklore
oh, it's
and
well,
social fabric,
all
kind of?
right, you're right. And the Ten Commandments, the Ten Commandments are believed to be a folklore to some people, but God gave Moses the tablet of the Ten Commandments, and He said, God told Moses, I expect you, Moses, and the people who follow after you to live by these Ten Commandments. Now, there are many places who would want to post the Ten Commandments, let's say into school and so forth. To some people, that represents religion. Nope, we're not here to represent religion. There is, people use the term sometimes separation of church and state. And I believe that to be the choice that we have, that we are in a Judeo Christian nation where the government does not and will not dictate what spiritual values we choose to follow. But some people believe that just having the Ten Commandments in a building represents a spiritual belief, and they would say, we're not here for spiritual purposes. That's, again, separation of church and state. A lot of people have different views on that, but that's a lot of what that represents.
The Ten Commandments, in my view, is a methodology for cohesiveness in society.
Oh, it is, and Ed, I believe that.
And
That what is it?
but that's
Yeah,
not
go ahead.
religion. It can be, but it's social.
It is social functioning, and they are foundational values. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not lie to. Yeah, but if we, Ed, you and I, and others choose to live by those foundational values, wouldn't we be adding value to people? Therefore, I can never target you because I value you as a person. Even though your background is very different from mine, if I value you as a person, I could never make you as a target. I could never want to terminate your life. I can't do that because my foundational value is I value you, Ed Cohn, as a person. Whether we agree or not, on certain values. I value you as a person, but that's a foundational value I have. And I know not everybody believes that if my religion, if my God, lower G, lowercase g, God says, no, we need to terminate you, then that's the value that I will use. And that's what seems to be happening in a lot of our world, Ed. And I want to do what I can as a catalyst to help avoid let's say conversations, attitudes degenerating to the point of others seeking retribution.
Well, have we done enough on this topic, or should we bring up something more?
No, I'm happy with this, Ed. I am, again, with your listeners, I'm very interested in learning how any of your listeners uh, deal with controversy. And do you get to a point where you say, I'm not going to continue our conversation in this mode meaning, let's say, email, social media, so forth. I'm happy to engage in a real-time conversation. I just do not want to continue this any further in this. Again, I use the term faceless, voiceless environment. I do believe as long as we can dialogue, we can overcome any differences we have. Ed, you may never agree with any aspect of something I agree with, but still, we just agree to disagree. But we're going to move together.
Let's say amen.
And we can say amen together that we are going to continue together, even though we acknowledge our differences. And so that to me is what the business partnering and so forth is about. And you mentioned international business. Yeah, there's their cultures that they're different all around the world, but I want to learn those cultures and choose to adapt to those cultures rather than you saying that you've got to be like me.
So the cooperculture.com is a reflection of that.
And it is, Ed. And we work with businesses to help them develop a culture where, yes, I know exactly who I am, where I fit in this, my strength, and how I contribute to the company's strategic objectives. And we work well together because I know I can, let's just say, Ed, you are my CEO. I know I can come to you and say, well, Ed, I've thought about this. Can we discuss this a little bit further? Can I have an idea that may advance something we're doing? It's going to require change, but do I have the freedom to talk with you, Ed, about that, or do I feel my job is at risk? And in a similar sense, Ed, I'm going through something at home that yeah, it doesn't involve work per se, but yet it does because I can't leave everything at home and not have it not affect me at work. Can we discuss this? Because you may have the wisdom to help me overcome.
I have to answer the door. Don't go away. Hey, buddy. Hi. Come on in. I'm just wrapping up a show here, but it's okay for you to come in. Yeah, Joanne's still in the bedroom.
I don't need to go in there.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, but I need to put this down.
Oh, yeah. Please help yourself.
Grab some more stuff.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
No,
We
that's all
have-
good. And
We
just so
have
you,
our uh, local handyman is doing
oh,
some
okay.
work here. I'm in Phoenix at one of the investment condos, and we've got in between bookings, so we're doing some work. He is.
All right. Well, Ed, just so you're aware, I have an appointment in 6 minutes. And
Oh, okay, good.
so that's everything's working fine.
All right, great. So I thank you so much for being my guest on the show today. I apologize for this lighting. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna shut the lights off behind me. It's a big window and the sun's blaring in here in the desert. So uh, this practice that we're just talking about of using the Ten Commandments as a bridge over troubled waters, if you will, like that song, I think that's the answer
I do.
to healing in America.
It is. And again, Ed, as long as we can have a dialogue, I feel very confident we can overcome anything.
Amen. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you, Ed. Merry Christmas to you. And let's just agree to be back with each other in 2 weeks. Is that reasonable? Because Christmas is 1 week from today.
Yeah. Okay. 2 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Ed. Have a great day, buddy.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And happy Hanukkah.
And thank you for everything.